Welcome to Thieves' Cant, a tabletop gaming podcast with your hosts, Jeremy Shane and Chris White.
Welcome in, welcome back. Thieves' Cant, February 10th. I'm Jeremy Shane.
And I'm Chris White.
And it is the week of love.
Yeah, it is.
Are you feeling the love this week?
Oh, I'm feeling it. I'm Twitter-pated.
Show us some love. Give us some feedback. Of course, thievescantcast@gmail.com. Drop a 5-star review on your platform of choice. Today, Chris, a little Lore Vault episode, right?
That's right. So, kind of paint a picture here. My first introduction to this creature, right?
All right, so we're talking a creature.
Yeah, we're going back in time to me, having never played Dungeons and Dragons, but interested in the game, right? We really still don't have a gaming shop in town of note where we live.
No, we got to travel just a little bit.
Yeah. But, so I went to the local comic shop and I was like, I'm really interested in Dungeons and Dragons. This book looks cool. I'm going to buy it, not knowing anything. And so, of course, I bought like Monstrous Compendium Volume 2, right? Or something like that. Yeah. Which is basically a book full of monsters with stats that made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
Was this the big binder?
This was the binder.
Okay.
Right? It's black and white and pages in the binder. And so I was flipping through it. You're seeing all these crazy things. Here's this monster that's like got an octopus squid face, and here's a minotaur, and here's this big gnarly looking orc, right?
And your imagination is just firing on all
dragons
cylinders.
And all these things. And then I turn to this one page, and there's what appears like to be a naked woman with a flower in her hair hiding behind a tree. And I'm like, this is odd. Now, I was a teenage boy, so this caught my interest immediately, but that's really not the reason. Because I'm like, why is this here? Like, this is the Monstrous Compendium. Why is this creature here? Of course, we're talking about the Nymph.
Okay.
Right? And so this is a creature that I don't know gets a lot of play now, and I think is fascinating. Because in this book with all of these monstrosities and these powerful opponents, this seems so out of place.
Yeah.
But it's not. Because I think... And though latter editions, I have my complaints about 4th and 5th edition and how they handle creatures like this, have watered this creature down, the Nymph. I think that it's fascinating. And I think this is one of the most interesting encounters or even campaign setups that you could have in the Nymph.
All right.
So to get into it a little, of course, the Nymphs come from Greek mythology. And there's this idea that they're messengers of the gods, or they're the daughters of Zeus, or whatever it may be. All these roles that they play. But over time in fantasy, particularly in D&D, we see that it's sort of changed. We've gotten a little bit away from the Greek mythology, but that element is still there, right? And so what I really want to focus on is more how they are viewed in tabletop games now, and maybe why we'd be better off to look to the past a little bit. Again, these creatures have been watered down. In 4th edition, like, it's just a weak encounter. They're like a CR4 creature. They have a charm ability. It's okay. If you go back to older editions, they're kind of scary. Because here's the deal with the Nymph. Unearthly beauty. If you think about if a beautiful, thick, untouched forest could be embodied, I think a lot of people, we're going to picture like Treebeard, right?
Sure.
We're going to see this, like the forest itself coming to life. But imagine if when you're out hiking in the woods and you come across this beautiful waterfall or this beautiful viewpoint, and it just takes your breath away. Imagine if that was embodied in a human-like form.
Okay. So that same sense of awe that you might feel, that same sense of wonder.
Right. An unnatural beauty that's actually natural beauty. So,
but so far beyond anything that you're familiar with.
That's exactly
so
right.
as to appear unnatural.
Exactly right. Okay. This is an alien creature, right? Okay, they're fae, which in and of itself, I can understand the motivations of a lot of the creatures in this book. Even the ones that are supposed to be alien, I can kind of break down the motivations of a mind flayer or the motivations of a beholder. But the Fae, and in particular the Nymph, I find very difficult, right? These are neutral creatures, just like nature, right? And so what you have in the Nymph is basically, you think about like a beautiful, like just incredibly beautiful nightshade, variety of a nightshade plant. Incredible to behold. You could stare at this thing for hours. Its beauty is unimaginable, but it's dangerous. And it's not dangerous in the traditional ways. And that's why I think handling the Nymph in a traditional way is a mistake. Because I think these are creatures where there should be a lot of mystery. And their motivations and their desires aren't always as clear as you might think. So with the Nymph, you've got essentially, they're these Fae creatures, of course, dwell in the Feywild, but do occasionally inhabit places in the prime material, right? And so you may see them in the Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk or any of these locations. Deep in the woods, the places where they live are almost shrines of beauty. Like they are these places where you would go there and just your mouth would be agape at how beautiful these surroundings are. This is where they live. And I said they had kind of this alien mindset. They hate ugliness. And in fact, the earlier editions call out they hate ugliness and evil. Well, why? They're a neutral creature, right? But the evil represents that ugliness on the inside. So there is something to that, but don't mistakenly think these are good creatures either.
Okay,
because
interesting.
It sounds like, they're almost, every example I've ever been able to find, they're female. So I think there's one allusion in an earlier edition that there might be a male one, but they all have a female form, and they are just that embodiment of beauty. And so they're going to...
Let me ask a question. I don't want to derail this, but you bring up that they reside in these places of unmatched beauty, right? So are these places that way because of the presence of the Nymph, or the nymphs just seek these places out?
Yes. So they'll find these beautiful places, but then they will work to augment them.
Okay.
So when you go, they're constantly repairing the vegetation there. They have, in previous editions, they were fairly powerful druids. I mean, they could cast up to 4th level spells.
Oh, wow.
So in some ways, you think about what a druid would do to a woodland area they dwelled in, and it's similar, right? So they are healing wounded animals in this area. Animals are approaching them without any fear. They want to be in the presence of the Nymph, right? They are, they're mending the trees. They're removing any fungus that might be growing on them. So everything that they're doing is making that area more beautiful. A lot of times, and we're going to get into this a little bit more later, they're going to receive gifts from mortals that are infatuated with them. And a lot of those gifts are like gems. They really like gems because they'll place them strategically in this area so that they glint in the sunlight, or there's a prismatic shine going across the pool. So the Nymph this is the strange thing. It's easy to get this wrong and be like, oh, well, it's an OnlyFans model, right? No, it's not. Like, that's not it, because you could play a Nymph that way, right? But I don't think that's really what they are. They just love beauty. So it's almost not, they're obsessed with beauty, but it doesn't seem like a narcissism. It's more of just, this is literally beauty of the beauty of nature made manifest to a point, again, that it is very dangerous.
All right. Well, let's get into why it's dangerous and how that might manifest.
Right. So nymphs are elusive, fairly shy for the most part. However, they will fiercely defend their home. Okay. So again, we kind of have that druid influence there.
Sure.
They are not powerful combatants, however. If you're just going to have your druid pick up a staff and take on the party, they're going to be calling in. All of the animals are going to heed their call to help them and all these things, but they're probably not going to be the biggest challenge your party faces in that alone. Now, what they do have is, and this is really their greatest ability, is they are intelligent, high wisdom score, crazy high charisma. Again, 4th edition is going to tell you a Nymph has 20 charisma, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. So previous editions, they kind of base is 25. So that just gives you an idea of the comeliness of these creatures.
Yes.
And they're going to use that if they need to. So if they decide to encounter with someone, there is a chance. First of all, it's going to depend on that individual. Are you hacking the woods up? Okay, you're going to be an enemy, and it's going to treat you as such. Are you a wanderer? Are you seeking out the nymph? Because the thing is, nymphs live for generations, so they have incredible information. And if given a gift, they might be receptive to helping. So this could be an ally, or it could be a powerful enemy, right? Their biggest thing, and I'm not going to focus too much on the stats of each individual edition, is their ability to charm. If they do find themselves in an encounter like this, which again, really great use of a solo encounter. We've talked about that in the past, like having individuals break off from a group. This is a really potent solo encounter that you could use, because one-on-one.
Now, when you say solo encounter, can you clarify?
Yeah, just like a member of the party.
Okay, so this is not your party taking on a solo monster.
Well, I'm just saying you can do that, but if it's just an individual, this is
like
a really powerful
a side quest.
Yes,
a one-off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, but if even if you have the whole group, so this charm is going to go out, to a certain range. Everyone's going to be affected. But it may be you're infatuated, like a charm, but it seems to me like more personal. Like you just really you want to do what pleases this nymph because it's so beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's your base level. And this is one of those instances where a lot of times it depends on how much you fail that saving throw by. A little more significantly, you're going to go blind. Whatever duration is fitting, it may be while you're in the presence of the nymph, it may be a 24-hour period, whatever.
Well, that's interesting that blindness would be the result here of an extreme failure, because part of the charm is being able to see and appreciate the beauty, and that's what keeps you charmed.
Right. So
if you can't see it.
How I would view this, and this is how I did it, was basically you're blinded by her beauty, right?
Yeah.
And so basically at that point, all you can see is that beauty. That is just burned into your mind.
All right.
And so there's nothing, there's nothing else there. And so literally you could have a nymph that has infatuated someone, blinded them, and if she considers them enough of a threat, she could lead them off the edge of a cliff to their death. I mean, nature can be ugly, right?
That's
so
dark.
You got to understand, this is a dangerous, dangerous thing. But it's even more significant, and I find this fascinating, if the nymph disrobes. In other words, if the nymph takes her clothes off and you behold her naked, if you fail that save, you die instantly. You're dead. It's over. Game over. This is not a hit point damage thing.
Right.
This is just a save or die. So this is a choice the nymph can make, right? If she wants to take you out, then she disrobes. So
if she wants to take you out, she takes them out.
Yes. Okay. There you go. Exactly. Right. So, which it's fascinating. Again, this is such a different encounter, such a different scenario than other things. And you can make this as raunchy or as almost kind of like a purity. I don't know. You can kind of take it either way. But regardless, this can be a deadly creature, right? I mean, if pushed to that point, the nymph could literally take out the whole party. And I don't know. I could not find the sources for this in the limited research that I did. There is a YouTube channel I follow. His name is AJ Pickett.
Okay.
And he is my favorite fantasy historian. He is so good at this stuff. But one thing that he noted, and I don't know where this came from, was that in somewhere in the text or in the lore, nymphs could not be destroyed permanently. So you could kill a nymph, but as long as their region, this beautiful domain that they've set up exists, they will come back.
That's like a phylactery in a way?
Exactly. Yeah. It almost draws a parallel to like a lich or something. And I find that fascinating because it's like, whereas the lich is this putrid, rotting, evil, ugly thing, right? Yeah. This is almost the other end. And that even from
the counterbalance,
even from the worst from a forest fire, the wood springs up stronger than ever, right? As far as their encounters with others, again, they can be helpful. There's a lot components for spells and potions can come from nymphs, like the tears of a nymph are a powerful component, a lock of a nymph's hair. It's not obviously the case, but, I think about Galadriel as she's introduced in the Lord of the Rings films.
Okay.
that, it's this elven witch, but her beauty but it's almost like she's kind of scary, right? I mean,
she's very scary.
Yeah, she's scary, but she's beautiful. And like, there's just something, it is almost alien here, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of where you're at with the nymph. So it's just understanding their primary intention is to preserve the woods that they dwell in. But, there is also this obsession with the beauty of nature, that they are the beauty of nature made manifest. And so I think you can use them in so many ways. A nymph could become the benefactor of the party, right? I mean, if you were in an adventure and there were orcs or undead tromping through the woods, they're going to hate that. And so they might be interested in looking for an ally. Or at the same time, you might be after something that maybe there's something you need in the woods, and the nymph can become a pretty powerful opponent.
Sure.
Because they're not going to jump out and ambush the party and hit them with a stick, right? They're going to manipulate things. They're going to use the woods against them. They're clever in that sense. Yeah. So a nymph is not a simple encounter to be run, if run well. But I think, man, it is really, really an interesting creature.
If you've got thoughts on the nymph, maybe you've incorporated one in your game, we'd love to hear about it. You can let us know, thievescantcast@gmail.com, or hit us up in the comments below. The Week of Love continues. Tomorrow we're back in the Forge of Creation. What are we? We're going to make some sort of love trinkets?
Yeah, we're going to.
Love spells. I don't know what we're doing. Something with
something lovey-dovey. Right. It's going to be awesome.
So we will see you tomorrow in the Forge of Creation. Until then, thanks for listening. It's been Thieves Cant. I'm Jeremy Shane.
And I'm Chris White.
So long.
Thank you for listening to Thieves Cant. Email thievescantcast@gmail.com.